Hey geeks, welcome to another exciting episode of Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. I'm David McCarter. I'm glad you're all back. We haven't had a show since the beginning of the month, and so if you're back live, then I really appreciate it. If you're back watching later, then I appreciate that too. I'm still fighting the cold I got in Denmark, so I hope my voice lasts the show, but I'll let Dylan, my guest, talk most of the time, hopefully. Speaking of that, Dylan Beattie is going to be my guest on the show. He was actually also a speaker at the conference in Denmark. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second, and I'm really excited to have him on the show. Not only because I got to hang out with him a bit in Denmark, but he's also a musician. So we might not talk about code. Who knows? But we'll see. We'll see if we can keep it on track. But you know me and music. If I know somebody else with music on the show, I'm going to be talking about that because that's my favorite love of all time. So this is show 88. It's actually the last show of season 3. Next week will be the start of season 4, and I'll share some numbers next week about how many people watch season 3. But it seems like the numbers have come out pretty good, and so I'm really happy about that, especially since we've gone down to 2 shows a month or so now. So anyway, let's get going because I want to spend most of my time talking with Dylan and talk about music or whatever else we talk about. So let's talk really quick about the Copenhagen Developers Festival. While I've been sick, I actually worked on 2 videos I hope you'll go watch. One is about all the photos I took going around Denmark, and then the other one, actually I did 3 videos. One is about the photos of all the places I visited in Denmark. The second one, I did a really, really cool interview with the CEO of NDC conferences that I hope you'll watch. And then I did another comprehensive video about not only the pictures I took there, but also pictures from the conference itself and everything, which I'm going to show you that now. So my session was actually standing room only in this really hot room, unfortunately, but it was standing room only, and you can see all the people there. I had everybody yell, I love the Copenhagen Developers Festival in their native language. And you can't hear that because I can't share audio on StreamYard anymore, but they're all up there doing that. And there's me speaking in Denmark, and I had a really great time getting out and talking to the other geeks there, especially from Europe, because I've never really spoken in Europe before except for the Ukraine, and so it was really great to see a lot of people there and meet a lot of people. Carl Franklin and Richard Campbell, who's been on my show multiple times, were there, and so it was really great to hang out with them and catch up with them. Mads Torgersen, who's going to be my guest next week for the first episode of season 4, was there, and him and I hung out and had a long conversation about things, and it was really great to see because I haven't seen any of them since in person since COVID started, and so it was really great to see them in the real life, for the first time in years. And so I had a great time just talking to them, but I made a lot of new friends too. I made lots of new friends. Some will be at the next conference I'm speaking at in Lithuania in November, the Build Stuff conference. And so I'm really happy about that. The venue we had was really, really great. There were games there. There are all kinds of things to do besides the vendors, and you could actually see how rockets are built. I thought that was pretty cool. But of course, me loving music, the best part for me, besides speaking and meeting new people, was the music. This is a festival, and they had music every night, except for the last night, and we had such a great time. The picture up here, that's a really cool band called the Press Play. And what they do, they're really, really talented musicians, and they play music from 1980s computer games, which I was sitting there talking to other people going, this is really complicated to play. I'm glad I'm not playing it. And I was kind of, at first I was going, I don't know if this is going to be any good, but I was really, really pleasantly surprised. They did an awesome job. And the picture here, That's actually Dylan and the Line Breakers, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. And they were playing. I was supposed to play with them, but I got sick and I had to go back to the hotel. Unfortunately, I really, really wanted to. I haven't played on stage in a really long time, and so I was looking forward to do that. But hopefully next time, Dylan and I are at a NDC conference together or another conference together, we can do that. And then this singer here, I think was Sasha, or I forget, but she was really good. She's an up and coming pop star, and she really blew me away. I don't really go for pop music very much, but she's really, really good. I really liked her, and so that for me, that made the conference so much more fun because we had so many interesting things to do there besides music and games. There's beer, of course, and wine, and good food, and I had a really good time at the conference, and maybe Dylan will say a few words about that too. But this is the first time that NDC Conferences was trying a new thing, trying to this festival kind of thing where it's more of a festival atmosphere, and I really liked it, and I hope I get to go back and do that with NDC conferences again, because mostly because of the music, of course, but I really liked it. It was really fun. And one of the reasons I interviewed the CEO of NDC Conferences is I was trying to get, how this conference came about. And, before I went to the conference, I might have said it on the show too, is that it kind of felt to me like NDC is trying to bring the fun back in the conferences, because to me, that's been really lacking the last 10, 15 years. And especially in America. And so I hope they keep doing this festival kind of themed thing, because I really enjoyed it, and it was really a lot of fun. And going to conferences is just not about going to sessions. It's about networking and having fun, and listening to new ideas and meeting new people. And the Copenhagen Developers Festival definitely to me hit the mark on that. So anyway, that's the end of that. I talk about NDC Copenhagen Developers Festival, but if you get a chance to go next year, you should go, because it's a lot of fun. All right, I want to promote my latest book, Surviving the Technical Interview, Rock Your Career. It's available on Amazon right now, along with all my other books. And so I hope you go pick up a copy of this book, or one of my other ones I need to save for retirement. But this one is especially kind of, this is important to think about right now, because, we're coming up to the holidays, and that's when companies like to lay off people. So get prepared now, and get a copy of my book. And since I'm interviewing right now, unfortunately, still, I use my own tips in my own book, and so I hope you'll find some use out of it too. So go to Amazon, pick up a copy today. Woo! I have a brand new article on CSharpCorner. You can see there's it's been read 1.2 K times since it's come out middle of this month. It's about how to be a professional software engineer, be a squeaky wheel. This is something that I've been kind of talking a lot for a long time, and I decided to finally put it into an article. And because the whole article is about, if you're going to be a professional software engineer and rise up the ranks, you can't be quiet. You have to be a squeaky wheel. I know that's an American term for those of you who are not in America, but you have to bring up things. You have to ask questions. You have to interject your thoughts and feelings about what's going on in the project. And I know depending on your culture, that might be harder to do than maybe developers here in America. But my feeling is you have to do this if you're going to become a professional software engineer and make big bucks. And the quiet people don't make big bucks. It's the people who make some noise and rock the boat a little bit. I think I might rock the boat a little too much, but I'd rather do that than be quiet. So I hope you check out the article. And also, speaking about the shows, again, season 4 starts next week. I'm so excited with Mads Torgersen, my longtime friend and architect of C# now. And I'm so excited to have him on the show. I know I just saw him a month or so ago, but I can't see Mads enough because I think not only is he really wicked smart, but he's a really, really, really nice guy too. And he's from Denmark. His parents live in Denmark, and we talked a little bit about that when I was in Denmark. So I hope you join us next week live so you can ask Matt's question, because we're going to be talking about .NET 8. And he showed some things in Denmark that were really cool. And there's one thing that he wants to be in the framework. I'm going to try to get him to show you guys, because I think it's something we've needed forever in .NET, and we don't have it. And I hope he gets it into the next version, not C#8, but the version after that. So, so join us next week for Mads. And with that, I want to bring on Dylan. Dylan is a developer, musician, keynote speaker. He wrote his first webpage in 1992. He's the creator of Rockstar programming language, and he spends most of his time mashing music, tech, video, code, and comedy together in interesting ways to see what happens. And so welcome, Dylan.
Hello, Dave. How you doing?
How's it going in your neck of the world there? And
yeah, pretty good.
You're at home.
I'm at home in London, which doesn't happen very often at the moment.
Yeah.
I just got back from doing a Driven On conference in Amsterdam last week. So 2 weeks ago, I was in Tartu, which is in Estonia, where they have this amazing conference called Digit, which is it's one of those cities, most people couldn't find it on a map, and then you get to visit, and something that is you'd think it would stop surprising me by now, but it still surprises me, is you can go pretty much anywhere on this planet, anywhere that they have electricity and someone has a laptop, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to know how to write code, we want to know how to build systems, we want to make websites, and we want to build apps, and we want to do all this kind of stuff. And it's not always what you were talking about there with careers and interviews and making big bucks and stuff. There is clearly one amazing economic opportunities in what folks like us do. But I still talk to so many people who are just like, well, no, I just wanted to figure out how it worked. I wanted to play around with it, and I wanted to talk to other people and find out how they made it work. Yeah. And so, no, I've just had the great pleasure. I've been in Estonia. I was running a session in Antwerp. Then I was doing a kind of unconference and then a keynote in Amsterdam. Got back Thursday. I think I lose track of days when it's like this. I really do. So, and then, so I'm back in the UK for a couple of weeks. I got some user groups and a couple of little events that I'm doing next week. And DDD East Midlands, shout out to that, which is it's a free community conference organized by some great friends of mine, which is it's its second time back since COVID. So it's a community conference. It's a great chance, lots of speakers. A lot of the speakers there is the first time they've done anything like this. Yeah. And I, having done this for a while now, we'll come back in a second. Something you said in the intro about how conferences, you want to put the fun back into them. And I realized the timescale you're talking about predates me getting involved with conferences. So I don't know how much fun they were before I started coming along. So we'll talk about that in a second. But DDD's Midlands it's in Nottingham next Saturday, and it's a fantastic event. Really, really lovely people and great content. And then I'm off to NDC Porto. I'm going to be out there with the NDC crew, teaching .NET web development, which is it's kind of fun, actually. It's a new workshop that I put together for them. I ran it in Copenhagen for the first time, and it went pretty well. Got some good feedback from the group, so I'm tweaking a couple of bits. But it's I'm always interested with web development. I've been on the web forever. Like I literally built my first web page in 1992. Which was, I was a kid, I was doing work experience at a computer support at the University of Bristol here in the UK. And, I was seeing all these things. I'd never seen a CD-ROM before. I don't think I'd ever seen a Unix machine before. Up to that point, I had an MS-DOS and I had Amstrad Basic. And they're like, look at all these things. And, I kind of just kept notes on all of the fun stuff. And I was looking back at it a little while later and was like, I made a web page. I made a web page in Vim on a Solaris workstation, and I used FTP to put it on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, FTP. July remember that?
1992.
My first web page was 1994.
Yeah,
and so you probably had to write it in Notepad, just like I did.
Vim. And that was also the day I learned about Vim.
We didn't have any apps to write web pages back then. It's all, to me, it was Notepad, and I actually. piggyback off of Carl Franklin's first web server. And so him and I kind of shared the same server back then, because I didn't have my own server. It wasn't as easy as going to a web page and boom, you have a server you can put stuff on anymore. It was a lot harder back then, and we had to use FTP to FTP the files up there and all that kind of stuff. And
I had so 97 when I went to university, we got free web space. So I did computer science at the University of Southampton, and you had a public folder in your home directory that was on the web.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine, for some reason, had a private server in one of the big London hosting facilities. So he lent me some space for a couple of years, and then this is before cloud. Like there were places that you could pay them money and they'd host your websites for you, but there was a lot of really interesting stuff. I ran my own email system for about 15 years.
Wow.
On hardware. Like, I built a server out of bits of old workstations and found somewhere to connect it. And I ran all my email off that system. And I wouldn't do that now, because email's kind of become too important. Like, if you want it to work reliably, you need smart people on it full time. Who are always going to be, no, I'm not going to dinner. I'm not going to the movie. I'm not going to the airport. I need to fix the email. And I don't want to be that person in my life. I know. Pay someone else to be that person.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
But no, it was a lot of fun. And one of the things that I software loves new things. Software loves novelty. And I was reading a really interesting thing online the other day about the emphasis in tooling and frameworks and, all the stuff how easy is it to get up and running with it? Like, what's the out of the box experience? And someone was saying, where are the power tools? Where's the stuff that is like, oh no, you're going to need to spend 6 months figuring out how to use this. But those tools in software, they exist in legacy. There are legacy systems out there, people doing, big line of business applications where there is a learning curve, but it's not a learning curve for a particularly powerful tool. It's a learning curve for legacy complexity. And, where are the tools? And two, what would software look like that was written by people who'd put the hours in to master those? It's like the difference between someone who's learned to use clip art in Microsoft Word and someone who's actually learned to use every setting in Photoshop and use the tools to tell the story they're trying to tell. So now, kind of looping back around, I'm going to be in Portugal talking about web development, and it's like, let's take the sort of minimalist artisan web ethos. We're not going React and divs inside divs inside divs. It's like, the web is a really cool platform. HTML is a really powerful, expressive language. And if you work on it in a, I like to use the word elegant, like elegance and minimalism, because then you get a lot of things. Like, works on mobile. Well, of course it works on mobile. You haven't put anything in there that now you need a special version for mobile. You haven't put anything in there that, now I need a special version for screen readers or for accessibility or for, all these kinds of things. And so kind of that's the ethos. But then there's a whole bunch of stuff in particularly .NET 7 and now .NET 8 that gives us so many cool ways of delivering those kinds of experiences. And that's what I'm interested in kind of exploring with people. Is how do you use state-of-the-art tooling to deliver, code bases which actually embrace everything we've learned along the way, rather than just, we'll wrap it in another layer of redirection, and we've got a JavaScript tool that transpiles this thing into this thing into this thing into this thing, and then that thing goes live. And then, I'm a big fan of, I think you should be able to right-click view source and see how the application works. And if right-click view source gives you gibberish, then you are paying money for your browser to decode all of that gibberish and figure out how to make it into a web page. And I know there's people out there who disagree, but hey, they're entitled. This is my niche, and I enjoy working with it. So.
Yeah, well, you brought up the workshops you're doing. I'm really excited. One of my ideas this year, because it's a subject that it seems like no one ever talks about, is I'm going to do my workshop I'm doing in the Build Stuff conference in Lithuania. Is the first time. Yeah, you're going to be there too?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
No, I'm going to be track hosting.
Oh, cool.
So I'll be there introducing everyone, and some of the band, I think all the band are going to be there except Hannes. He can't make it. So we're going to be rocking the Build Stuff party Thursday night. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna play this time for
bring
sure.
a guitar, we'll get you up.
Yeah, so I'm doing for the first time I'm doing a workshop for globalization localization, and I'm running I'll talk about this towards the end of the show, but I'm running a tweet about it right now, a Twitter poll about it right now, because it's one of those things that 100% of the projects that I'm hired to work on has either no coding for this or very, 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 very little, and in our today's global world, we can't think like that, right?
Yeah.
And every time someone's hired me to come years later and try to put that into the program, it takes a long time, and it's really, really costly. And so I'm gonna have people come on and bring their work projects to the workshop, and we're going to start working on it on their work projects right there in the workshop. And so when they go back to work on Monday, right, they'll have the building blocks to continue that work. So they can do it. And I don't know how much, they could be different, in Europe than here in America, but the projects I work on here, none of it's being done.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I find, endlessly fascinating, is as software has become more and more kind of not just become international, but interconnected.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, they had computers in France and Spain and the Soviet Union and Korea, but those computers very seldom had to talk to the computers in England and the United States. And, I was a kid in Africa, so speaking English and using American ASCII as a child. And, as we invented the web and email and apps and all these kinds of things. And, a lot of people like internationalization, they think it means, the software has to work in like English and Spanish. And then you're like, well, what about English and Hebrew? Because they read right to left, not left to right. And you're like, what? That's a thing that happens?
Yeah, I know.
But, it can bite you in the smallest of ways. We were in Norway a couple of years ago after one of the NDC conferences. A couple of us went up to a cabin in one of the ski resorts there. And they have the people come around and they drop off like bed linen and firewood so you can have a fire going. And we had to pay for the firewood, which was about £100, $100, that sort of order of magnitude. And they had this payment app. And I didn't have the Norwegian VIPs that all the Norwegian people use to do digital payment. So I'm like, can I use a credit card? And they said, yeah. So they put in, they put in the number in Norwegian kroner. So it's 980 kroner, but then in Norway they use a comma as the decimal separator.
Yes.
So it's 980,00, and then they push pay now, and I put my credit card in, and then I get an alert on my phone saying, do you want to pay £98,000 sterling for firewood? And I'm like, did they really? They just they pushed through the digits. They stripped the currency. They stripped the comma. They're like, we don't know what these things mean, so they can't be important. Throw them away. There we go. We've managed to reduce this to a number. And that has nothing to do with languages and translation.
Right.
That's about understanding that currency is a massive deal here. And actually, I have a post in the works at the moment. I wanted to figure out when you store money in a database, what format should you use for currency? And there's some people going, oh well, you shouldn't use money with SQL Server and things have money, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't use money because if you multiply money by money you lose precision. And you're like, when do you multiply money by money?
No, you
when does that you multiply money by interest rates, you multiply money by tax, by discounts, but you don't like, oh yeah, well we're going to multiply my bank by your bank to get it doesn't happen in reality, because money isn't like arithmetic. It's a whole different concept. And there's this convention that you should use a decimal which has 14 places and 5 decimal places, which is I calculated that's enough precision to calculate how much, if you replaced every person on the planet with Elon Musk, it would be the total of all of those Elon Musk's net worth expressed in Iranian rials, which is 48,000 rials to the dollar.
Wow.
You just, because I love the fact that it's very easy as a developer to be abstract about this. But then you're like, no, come on, get up. Talk to somebody who works in a bank. Talk to someone who works in finance. Figure out what's going to happen if you take this number of Japanese yen and you try and charge somebody that much in euros. You're going to overcharge them by like a factor of 5,000.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And people are like, what? And you're
yeah,
like, it doesn't happen by magic. You got to understand the stuff. And then there's time zones, which are a whole other
oh
thing.
God, don't get me started. Time zones, they drive me crazy. But yeah, the first two sections in the workshop, the first thing we're going to tackle is date time.
Yeah.
Right, because that's that displays to the user differently depending on what country you're in, right? And then the next section of the workshop, we're going to be tackling the number values like you were just talking about. And as I was working on the workshop, I have most of it done. And I forget what I was looking at, but in America, and I think a lot of other countries, when you're representing money, you have two decimal for places, right? But I saw one that has 3.
Bahrain. Well, the
Bahrain?
dinar. The Bahrainian dinar is the canonical example. It's also the world's highest valued currency. 1 dinar is worth about $3. But yeah, there's the dinar. It's not the same currency, but they use the same word across a bunch of different countries in the Middle East. And they denominated in thousands, not hundreds. So accepted wisdom apparently is you want to store 1/10 of the smallest currency unit you've got. So 4 decimal places is the one that apparently is a good idea. So
So we're going to tackle those things first because they're there's a lot easier to fix than strings are. And then the last section of the talk will be all about the strings and then how to translate those into different languages. Because my global tool right now that I have for .NET developers, I think I've converted into 4 different languages. And actually, because I was kind of in a hurry to get working on the workshop, all the values I'm comparing, like what it looks like in America to Denmark, because I did translate my program into Danish, and but that gets you closer because and one of the things I'm having the workshop people do is in their program, I'm going to have them switch to the US. Right, because they're all from Europe, so they're all used to the Europe stuff. So I'm going to have them switch to the US and see how stuff starts coming out, right? Because it's not going to come out right. And so it's going to be fun. It's it's only 3 hours. I kind of wish it was longer, but I still have enough in there to really get people going, hopefully, and hopefully at other conferences, because I'm proposing this at other conferences too as a workshop. I'm not doing it as a session. I can't do this as a session. It's just too much stuff, and so I've been applying to do that at every single conference that I've been submitting papers to, including NDC. So hopefully they'll pick me up for some other. I didn't get into London, unfortunately, but hopefully
a lot of people didn't get into London.
I
was on the selection committee, and we had over 1,100 submissions, and we got to pick about 60 of them. And that's really tough. I mean, I've written before about this process, and to everyone out there who's watching the show or maybe tuning in later, I think that there is this thing, particularly people who are very, very capable and, accomplished earlier in life, that everyone can get 100% on the exams. And then you get to something like, no, we got 60 places to give out.
I know.
If everyone wrote the best submission we'd ever seen, we'd still be turning down over 1,000 people.
I know.
So, and it's about, encouraging people to not think of it as rejection, but like, you just didn't make the cut this time around.
Yeah. That's actually, you were speaking about how conferences were and how they are now. When I've been speaking almost 30 years now, and when I started speaking, it was not like that. We didn't have as many people trying to speak back then because to me, developers were a little more introverted than, we always are, right? But I think we had more of that. We didn't have enough people encouraging people to speak, right, as we do now. And so it's so tough now and to get into a conference. And so those of you out there, if you tried to submit a couple times, keep doing it, because that's why you're getting rejected. Well, it could be other reasons too, but that's one of the biggest reasons.
Do you know a thing called Sturgeon's Law?
Mm-hmm.
It was Theodore Sturgeon. He was a science fiction writer, and like the 60s sometimes, someone interviewed him and they said, do you think that 90% of science fiction is crap? And he said, yes, because 90% of everything is crap.
Yeah.
And I apply that all over the place. Like if you want to have one amazing experience, you got to do it 10 times.
Yeah.
And you want to ship one amazing successful startup project, you got to ship 10.
Yeah.
And until you've done something 10 times, you're like, well, maybe just I'm still just figuring out the odds on this thing,
Yeah.
And so not saying that 90% of conference submissions are crap, because if they were, it would be real easy to reject them. They're not. They're very, very good. But keep plugging away and just keep figuring things out. Something else, just while we're on the topic, that I always say to people, try to find a talk that nobody else could do.
Yes.
Because then they got to get you to do it.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of all the events that I work with. There's a whole lot of, this is how I got a TensorFlow working with Python. And you're like, yes, I believe you. I'm sure you did. And I'm sure it's a great story. We've all done that. Lots of people have done that. What makes your experience interesting?
Yeah. And that's what I focus on. I focus on talks that no one else is talking about, because I'm trying to fill those gaps that I feel are important that no one else seems to want to talk about. And so, unfortunately, I think I don't get accepted because they're not the flashy new thing at some conferences. But I think conferences like NDC get it, especially at the Copenhagen Developers Festival, because there were so many weird session. Weird's the wrong word, but different sessions at the festival. That everything from space to they had one event that some of the new people I met built a hot air balloon and did that, and they had multiple sessions on space and other really, really different kind of subjects, which I thought was cool, because all that kind of gets into creativity and technology and all that. I mean, it's just not programming. There's other things that we do that fill our needs for that
it's
kind of
always
thing.
The interesting balance there is always trying to create the program of really interesting, engaging topics. But then once in a while, someone's like, hang on, people are going to be asking their boss to pay for the ticket.
Yeah.
This can't look like too much fun unless we completely pivot. And we're like, no, this is, it's a festival like Glastonbury or Roskilde or Graspop. You're going to buy your own ticket because it's just 3 days. You're going to take a holiday from work. And at that point, you kind of tip the balance in the other direction. And you're like, well, no one is going to, pay 500 euros for a ticket and then go to a talk about performance in .NET. Because they can get their boss to pay for that. So they're going to do something different. And so it's finding that balance of, because people learn better when they're happy, and people are more receptive to new ideas when they're relaxed and they're laughing and they're enjoying themselves. And you can't just sit and learn hardcore tech content for 8 hours 3 days in a row.
No,
I've tried.
It's too hard. It doesn't work. Never works. And actually, that's why I've stopped submitting my workshop on technical interviewing, even though it's a really, really good workshop. It's a full day or a half day workshop. And I've stopped submitting them to paid conferences. I submit them only to community run conferences, because you're right. What employer is going to, look at the sessions going, oh, you want to go to the workshop on how to interview? Yeah, no, we're not sending you there.
You got to flip it around. You got to print out exactly the same material, but from the perspective of the interviewer. And then people will be like, yeah, boss, we got to grow the team. We're going to bring our recruitment in-house. Think how much recruiter fees we'll save. There's your angle. So
I could do that. So let's those of you out there, if you have questions, we only have like 20 minutes left. Make sure you post them in the chat if you're watching us live. We don't get a lot of live people because of the time of day. So I kind of wanted to ask you a couple questions. And one is, what is the Rockstar programming language?
So this it starts with the whole trope about people on LinkedIn going, oh, we need to hire a Rockstar Java architect or a Rockstar database engineer, which has been going on since ever since I've been working in software professionally. And it's, I think 2018, a guy called Paul Stovell, who he's the founder of Octopus Deploy. So that's where people might have heard of him from. He just tweeted this thing one day. He said, we should, to confuse recruiters, someone should make a programming language called Rockstar. And kind of that was the nucleus of the idea. And what happened is I saw that and I just started thinking, would it be possible to, because I love rock and metal music, and particularly the kind of the 80s, like there was a lot of excessive spandex and hairspray.
Hairspray.
There were some very, very kind of cliched lyrics that would get shouted at again and again and again. And I started just playing around with, could you extract enough consistency from the lyrical cliches to get a formal grammar that you could use to build a Turing-complete programming language? And it was in a bar in Australia. People I was meeting were running late, and I sat there, had a laptop and a beer, which is how a lot of the worst things I've ever done started. And I just started playing around with a parody syntax. And at this point, it was a joke. Like, it was going to be a piece of comedy writing. It was a parody specification for a Turing complete program. And it was like, how do we do loop structures? Well, we could have like take it to the top as a jump at like a break statement. And
jump.
Yeah.
Van Halen jump.
We could have put jump in there. Rockstar 2.0 at the moment is a kind of backlog of things that I wish I'd done differently. And one day I'm gonna dust it off. So I'll put jump is nice. But basically it's, can we write a programming language? So there's no kind of mathematical operators. So the equality operator is like, you can say if X is Y, then if they're equal, then, if X ain't Y is not equal. And and I wrote this parody spec and I stuck it up on GitHub, and it went viral and people started implementing it. And I started getting GitHub issues from people going, what should the language do in this situation? I'm like, why do you care?
It's a joke.
People were taking it. And, something I'm weirdly proud of is that a spec I wrote in a bar in 3 hours was like 98% implementable. Like, almost all of it, people were able to translate the docs into a formal grammar and then use that to build a Alexa for it and stuff. Which, looking back on it, I'm kind of quite happy with that. But then it just kind of, I thought it would be funny for like a day. And then after a week, I was still seeing chat about it. Someone set up a Discord, and it made the front page of Reddit again after a couple of months. And then like Carnegie Mellon University, they have like an online capture the flag for the computer science freshman year. And they used Rockstar in that 1 year, and I saw the spike of activity. And at one point, I decided I was missing out on all the fun. So I built a Rockstar interpreter in JavaScript, which was a fun exercise. That's a codewithrockstar.com. So you can go over there, and it just runs in your browser. So you can type in Rockstar programs and run them. And it's pointless, but it's a lot of fun. And it's something that, one of my talks that I still get invited to give all over the world is called The Art of Code. And I talk about the esoteric languages and quines and, all the kind of, don't do this at work, but it's really cool that you can do it at all. So, pushing the boundaries of what's actually possible within the constraints of programming languages as a concept. And that ends up with the story of Rockstar. And then I perform FizzBuzz, the program, live on stage with a guitar, and kind of, because the lyrics at that point just sound like a bad heavy metal ballad. And that one always goes down pretty well. So and that's kind of fun. I did that in Amsterdam again last week, and I don't think it's ever going to get old. Like, I probably need to incorporate a bit of material in there about things like stable diffusion, because obviously the state of the art in using computation as a creative tool has transformed dramatically within the last 18 months. But also, I think, AI has taken a lot of the fun out of it. There's clearly there is going to be a whole niche of applications that were previously impossible. I sort of think today, the latest version of ChatGPT, the one where you can use images as input, and they're feeding in like archived handwritten notebooks from people like Robert Boyle, the great scientist. And, that potentially unlocks a whole bunch of new opportunities for rapidly digitizing this material that makes it available for researchers.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, absolutely, we should be doing that. And then there's a bunch of people who are like, well, I used to be a creative art worker for an ad agency, but now the machines are going to do it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it
To a
sucks that
point.
your livelihood is being threatened, but also every advertising art worker I've ever met hates their job and all their clients.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of trying to make sure you can continue to be miserable in order to put food on the table, we should work out what can we do to make sure you have food on the table, and then you can do something, because the folks I know who do that kind of work, that's not the kind of art they want to be making. They love the fact that they get to make art and get paid for it, but it raises a lot of interesting questions about the relationship between revenue and industry and creativity and welfare, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know some famous
yeah.
authors are already suing or suing right now ChatGPT because they're spitting out their work without being reimbursed. So I know we kind of know that we've kind of known that's going to happen, and now it's actually happening. So it's going to be interesting.
I mean, I have a physical guidebook to London that I bought, which was written by absolutely 100% certain. It's written by generative AIs and print on demand. There was no human copy checking, no editor, no typesetter, nothing. This thing is just something's churned out a PDF, and you look at the steps that make this possible. So we got the generative AI, which is cool. Then we've got something that can turn that into PDFs. All right, that's useful. But then, we have a company like Amazon who are like, if you give us a PDF, we'll sell it. And we won't look at it. We won't do any quality control on it whatsoever, because quality control is expensive and it doesn't scale and it interferes with the raw, unfettered capitalism.
Yeah.
And, that's the bit that I'm, you take all of these amazing tools we have now, and then you plug them into a company with, and I'm not singling out Amazon, every company is like, nope, scruples doesn't scale, ethics doesn't scale. You know what scales? Scale.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's kind of scary. None of these things is inherently evil. But I said to someone in a talk the other week, AI is not going to kill you. It's just that saving your life doesn't scale and it's expensive. And so the companies which are applying AI are going to, work around the safeguards and checks and things because it endangers their profit margins.
That's. And, I've been the last 3 weeks or so because I've been sick and didn't feel like my brain was good enough to code too much. I've been I've become kind of addicted to text to image through AI, and I've been using Adobe Firefly. And it's still in beta, so it's got a lot of work, but it's pretty amazing what you can do once you figure out how to use the dang thing. And then and for example, when I started, because I'm very creative, I always get into stuff like this, and so like my slide deck for my normal talk in build stuff, I've replaced the entire template, all images generated by Firefly and me, right? And other text or whatever logos I've added to it. So the whole thing is generated by AI. And then, the other thing that I noticed just yesterday, because I just updated my Adobe Cloud stuff, is, I used text to image AI to generate an image for a new article that's coming out in a couple weeks. And, I still use Photoshop to put the text on because the way they do text in Firefly isn't that great. So I still use Photoshop. And I noticed when I tried to export, the image in Photoshop, it stopped and started adding some kind of certificate to it because it detected it was AI generated. And so it stopped, and it even detected it was generated by Firefly, and it put a certificate into the image. Right. And so I kind of knew this already, that you can embed things like this in images. And so I know, safeguarding, images is a bit, easier than just doing text. Right. Because there's no markers you can put in a text that can tell people that unless they run it through another thing, right? So, but yeah, that's what I've been doing lately to waste time, is to is do that. But it's come up some pretty cool things. But anyway, I don't want to talk too much about that because we only have a few minutes left.
There are more interesting things than generative AI to talk about in the world.
Yeah, we can talk about that another time. Yeah. I did want to talk a little bit because I was really interested in what you said in Denmark about your band, the Line Breakers. So I kind of wanted to kind of explain to everybody what the Line Breakers really is, and then I kind of want to talk for a few minutes about that app that you wrote, which I thought was really, really cool. The Guitarioke app.
Yeah. Oh, cool! Yeah. So Line Breakers is a there's a saying in software that big systems that work start as little systems that work. Like you can't deliver complexity. And Line Breakers started as one single song. And I took my guitar along to NDC London in 2015. So probably nearly 10 years ago now. I replaced the lyrics to Dire Straits' Money for Nothing to just be like about all the people who were speaking at NDC, because a bunch of them were my friends and stuff. And they had a house band playing at the party, and I said to them, can we do Money for Nothing? And so I got up and I played that with them. And at the end of it, there's, maybe 200 people singing, I want my NDC. And, it was kind of fun, but it was also a bit of a twist, because every conference that I've been to, lots of them, they just have a band to do the party. Yeah. And the band are up there going, it's a bunch of software developers. Yeah. And the developers are all like, oh, look, there's a band doing either originals or covers. But, there's never like been much of a connection between those. I thought maybe there's an opportunity here to do something with live music that actually is, it's a niche. You're never going to book it for a wedding or a bar mitzvah, but if you've got a conference party, then and so it kind of evolved. Came up with a couple of other songs, and then I figured out that video makes a big difference because it gives people something to look at, and particularly, if the sound isn't too good, or if somebody, particularly people who don't speak English as a first language, being able to follow the lyrics, because the jokes are all in the lyrics, and if they can see the words, then they get the jokes, and the whole thing works a lot better. So kind of started building that up until I had maybe half an hour of just, parodies. And they're all, the music is all classic songs, AC/DC and Billy Joel and Dire Straits and ABBA and all these kinds of things. And then we rewrite the words. And then I was doing a show at a PubConf, which is like the conference after party that we do sometimes after these things. And Vagif Abelov, who's a friend of mine who lives in Norway, was like, hey, I play piano and I know a lot of the songs in your show. I was like, yeah, bring your piano along. So we did that with just the two of us, and that worked. And it all started out kind of very impromptu. Like, I'd have my guitar because I travel with it a lot, so I can practice and stuff when I'm on the road. And people would be like, did you bring your guitar? I'm like, yeah, that'll be, do you want to plug in and play some stuff? And, all very like, we'll give it a go. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, then no big deal. We'll put the DJ back on and everyone can have another beer. And so very kind of much, probably a year or two of doing that. And then it just got to a point where this was a thing people started looking out for. And, I started getting conference organizers say, hey, bring the guitar and we'll do a show at the party. And then people in the crowd start going, hey, can I be in your band? So, yeah, like, I guess. And it's become this sort of, I guess, a kind of collaborative collective or something, because there's about 10 or 12 people all over the world who have been on stage as a line breaker at some point or some point or other. We did a bunch of shows in Russia before the world changed. And, we had a guy in St. Petersburg who used to get up and play drums with us and all these kinds of things. And, but yeah, now it's sort of, if someone says the Line Breakers, it's almost certainly going to be me, and it'll be an unspecified number of other people doing a bunch of songs that are funny songs about software and tech and all this kind of stuff with videos on a big screen. And that's kind of the pitch. Yeah. And the something that we're in the early stages, there's an event in the UK called EMF Camp, Electromagnetic Field Camp, which is a, it's not remote. This is your boss is never going to buy you a ticket to EMF. EMF is like Glastonbury for nerds, and we want to play EMF next year. So I'm going to start talking to the organizers about how we make that happen. I think that could be a really fun show.
That idea is one I've had for a long time. Back in 2006 was the first time I put together a band full of geeks, for a conference. We did that a couple of years. And then, the song at the beginning of the show is all from, I wrote the song, but, everything, every musician in that video is a, it's software engineer somehow. Right. And so I had that idea a long time ago. Wouldn't it be fun, to do pop, not pop songs, but rock songs, and then, put them and make them, techie lyrics and change the words just like you did, and then you did it. I was going, damn it, you stole my idea. But
no, I stole it from Weird Al. That's who I stole
it from. Well, that's probably where I got it too, is Weird Al, because I really like Weird Al, and I got to see him. I took my kids to see him once when he was here in San Diego.
Yeah.
And but I think that makes it more fun. Like when you were doing, because I'm a big AC/DC fan, right? And so when you did HTML, like to Highway to Hell, I was going, oh my God, this is awesome. And the whole video you had the AC/DC font in it, and you had it all timed. So it would do the HTML, you were singing.
I was talking with Mark Randall, because Mark is a good friend of mine. I've known him for years, and he wanted to be in the band enough that he taught himself bass guitar. We used to, Don Syme, the creator of F Sharp, used to play bass with us, and then he kind of stopped traveling so much, and so we had all right, we need a bass player now. And Mark was like, I can learn bass, and he, hours and hours a day, literally I think he did his first show with us 4 weeks after he first picked up a bass guitar. But we were chatting because, everyone has ideas. And I said, what you need to understand about the parody thing is on some arbitrary point scale, the idea costs 1 point. I can sit on a bus and spit out 20 ideas. And writing the lyrics costs 10 points, and making the music is 100 points, and making the video is 1,000 points. So to get something to the point where it's actually, you can have it ready to go in front of a crowd. I get people email me ideas, and I'm like, I don't want your ideas. That's the fun part. And I really don't want your ideas if you used an AI to create them, because I can do that. And all you've proved is that you are expendable in the glorious mechanized future. But no, it's this, as Hanselman was talking, Scott Hanselman in his keynote at Copenhagen, talking about, how have we ended up getting the machines to do the fun stuff? And that's something I think, like, I give me a machine that can do the laundry. Give me a machine that can, do my taxes. Don't give me a machine that can make art or write music. I love that. That's what I do the other stuff so that I have time to, I have clean laundry and my taxes are paid. And then I'm like, right, I'm done. Now I can write some lyrics, or I can make some pictures, or I can create a video. And there are elements of that are tedious, and being able to generate images, I think it's a wonderful addition to the creative artist's palette. Like, you were talking about using sort of, was it Midjourney you were using to do Firefly?
Firefly.
I think you use Firefly to make a picture. Well, the big deal, anyone can do that. But you use Firefly as a tool to create a curated set of images that you then incorporate into a presentation. That's I talked to a bunch of people about this, and I'm like, imagine when the electric drill was invented. And for people who were working in cabinet making or luthiery, or people who worked as craftspeople, they're like, this is an amazing tool. Look at what I can do. This used to be tedious, now it's easy. But there was also a bunch of people just going around like, I made a hole and stuff, like, yay! And you're like, no, owning the tool does not make you a craft person. And, AI is exactly the same. For people who understand what they are trying to accomplish and what they're trying to realize, you can invest the time in figuring out the capabilities of the technology, and then be like, right, okay, you get to a point you're like, I need a slide. I can generate this one. That's cool, because I'm not going to go on Shutterstock and find the exact photograph I want. And, I'm not drawing it to sell as an image. I'm drawing it because I want this on the screen behind me as I tell the story. And, for that kind of stuff, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's kind of what that's kind of why I used it for the slides, because I wanted to, incorporate, my themes into the slides, like guitars and music and things like that. And then I always come up with, like you were saying, the idea is the really fun part, right? And that's what you come up with, and then to do it in a way that it actually all fits together in one template, right? And that helps promote your brand or what you're trying to do, right? And the AI just makes it a little bit faster. And I could probably do all that myself, but it's a lot of time to actually do an image like that from scratch, and so I'm finding it fun. I'm seeing where it goes, but like you were saying, it's a tool just like anything else. It's that kind of reminded me of, like, one time I went to a concert, and my friend's wife said, "What kind of camera did you bring in here?" And I told her, and in the next show we saw a couple of days later, she bought the same camera. And then after that, she goes, "Why don't my pictures look like yours?" I go, "Well, because I'm an award-winning photographer, right?"
It's like, man, I spent $8,000 and I got the Marshall and I got the Hendrix Signature Stratocaster, and I even bought the Jim Dunlop wah-wah pedal, and I don't sound like Hendrix. And it's
yeah.
No. And you know what? Hendrix sounded like Hendrix playing a piece of shit $10 acoustic he found at a dumpster.
Yeah. I gotta let you go, because Simon's getting on me, and that's okay, because we're out of time anyway. But I really enjoyed you. Before I ask the last question, I really enjoyed you being on the show.
It's been great.
This is a really fun show to end season 3, and so I'm so glad that you were able to make time and come on.
Yay, I'm the season finale. Amazing.
Yeah, you're the season finale, right?
Is it going to be like a ... to be continued, and then I regenerate into Matt Storgerson for the next one?
But I definitely want to have you on the show again, and if you want to hang out and talk after the show's over, that's cool too.
Yeah, I'll stick around for a bit.
Yeah, and so I'll ask you the last question. This is what I ask all my first-time guests, but I'm pretty sure what I know your answer is going to be. What do you do for fun?
I sleep.
There you go. You sleep, because all the traveling you do.
Well, it's I have a pretty good life. I work for myself, and I very seldom have to. I don't sit through a lot of tedious budget meetings. I very seldom have to do anything with a spreadsheet. The kind of things that made work kind of oppressive, I've got to a point where I don't have to do a whole lot of that. So, for me, the difference between having fun and doing work is that if it's work, it means somebody else is setting the schedule. And I'm probably doing the same kind of stuff eventually I do anyway, because I'm enjoying doing it. It's just now it has to be finished by Friday. And that's the bit. But of course, you get it done for Friday, and then you get paid for it, and that's the way the system works. But there are very few things more delightful than waking up in the morning and going, you know what? I don't have to do anything today. I can just sleep for another hour. But I enjoy most of what I do. I like traveling. I'm going to Jordan next month for a conference out there, and what we were saying right at the beginning about travel takes it out of you. I still get that thrill of going somewhere that's completely unfamiliar to me, and being like, all right, how does this work? What's going to happen here? And there's a big old world out there with a bunch of places I haven't seen yet. And you do get to the point where you're on the Eurostar to Brussels for the 5th time this year, and you're like, really? Like, I don't know. Because I remember when the Eurostar to Brussels was really exciting. Like, you're going on a train that goes on a tunnel under the sea. That's amazing.
Wow.
And once I get there, it's always kind of fun. I like visit. I like novelty. I also like going to familiar places where I know where the good bar is, and I know where the good place to go and play pool, and I know where the good chicken wings are, and that kind of thing. I do a bunch of things for fun. But the sensation of I don't have to go anywhere today. I can sleep until lunchtime if I want to. I think if I had got that every day, it would stop being fun pretty quickly. But 1 or 2 days a month, that is a glorious feeling.
Well, thanks so much again for being on the show. I can't wait to hang out with you again in Lithuania in November. Yeah, and so that'll be fun, and then we'll talk after the show. And so thanks so much for being the last person on season 3.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. See you around.
Well, that was a really fun episode. I don't know if you noticed, maybe I was just thinking this in my own head, but I was like smiling ear to ear the whole episode. So yeah, I couldn't ask for a better guest to be on the last show for season 3. So I can't wait to have him on the show again, because I'm definitely gonna there's more I want to talk to him about, and so I'm gonna have him on. I hope you'll participate. Speaking of my globalization workshop, that's why I'm doing this Twitter poll right now. I hope you'll go to my Twitter handle and go vote for my latest poll about if your apps are globalized and localized in your company. So, excuse me, I hope you do that. I know I'm short on time, so I want to go fast. I think Richard Campbell posted this. Hard coding. This is perfect. You never hard code stuff, and this is the reason why. I'm sorry. Maybe it was just me. I thought that was funny when I saw it. As always, I hope you'll help me help the kids in the slums in Delhi, India, by going to the Voice of Slum or to my GoFundMe page, so we can help help support these kids, get them clothed with food, train, school and vocational training, all that stuff's my money helping the orphanage with. And so there's pictures from my trip last year when I visited the Voice of Slum. And so I hope you go there now and go donate whatever you can, because whatever you can donate will really help the kids. And especially now that we're getting into winter and holiday times, I definitely know they probably need more money. So I hope you'll do that. Help me help the kids. That unfortunately we still have to think about the Ukraine. So if you can help out in this effort, and if it's just thoughts and prayers, that's better than nothing. But if you can help out, I hope you help, do anything to get this over with, because I want to go back to Ukraine, as I keep telling you every time I've done the show. So, ever since the war started. So yes, next week will be the beginning of season 4. Woohoo! With Mads Torgerson. I'm so excited to have him on and have him show you some of the cool stuff coming out in .NET 8. And like I said, I'm going to have him show what he wants to come out in the future version, which I thought is really cool. I've never seen him talk about before. So if you don't know what that is, make sure you tune in next week for the launch of season 4 of the show. And unfortunately, because I've been sick, I haven't been able to donate blood. I had to cancel them 3 times. And so I'm finally going to donate tomorrow. So if you can go donate blood this weekend, please do. All the blood banks I'm aware of or heard about are all in a shortage, and they really need your blood. And now that we're going into holiday winter time, they're going to need it even more. So go down to your local blood bank and just spend 30 minutes to help another human, because someday you might need that help. And so, you need to bank up some of that karma. All right. All right. That's it. That's the end of season 3. I'm glad you watched this episode and any of the other episodes on season 3. I hope you learned and enjoyed and had fun as much as I did in this season. I want to give a shout out to, of course, Simon, my producer, who just does an awesome job. And, I really couldn't do this show without him. And so I really appreciate the work he does for this. And also make sure you email me suggestions, comments, whatever you want. There's my email handle. And I'll see you next week. Yep. Show's over.